The light of a smile. Have you ever noticed how a single, genuine smile can completely transform a room? Not the polite smile we give when someone takes our picture. Not the automatic grin when we are trying to be polite. I mean that kind of smile that rises from the very core of the heart. Warm, effortless, unguarded. That smile has a power that is hard to explain, yet impossible to miss. It softens the air. It makes people breathe easier. It can even melt away the weight of someone's long, heavy day. I want to share with you a story. Years ago, in a quiet mountain village, there lived an elderly monk. He had no possessions to speak of. His robes were patched, his hut was bare, and he ate whatever the villagers brought him. From the outside, one might think his life was full of hardship. But if you saw him, you would never believe he lacked anything. His face always seemed to glow, as though lit from within. His smile wasn't wide or exaggerated. It was gentle, yet it radiated warmth in a way that drew people to him. Even those who came with sorrow left feeling lighter. One man once asked him, "Why do you always smile? Don't you have worries? Don't you feel pain?" The monk answered, "Of course there is pain. But why add suffering on top of it? When I breathe, when I walk, when I see the sunrise, I am grateful. That is enough to make me smile." That simple response reveals a truth the Buddha often taught. Our outer expression reflects our inner state. The face is not just skin and bone, it's a canvas painted by the mind. When the mind is clouded with anger, fear, or envy, it shows. The lines grow hard, the eyes restless. But when the mind is filled with joy, gratitude, and kindness, the whole being radiates peace. Think about it. Haven't you met someone whose smile seemed to make you instantly comfortable? Someone whose very presence calmed you, without them saying a word? That's not just personality. That is the light of a heart at peace. Now let me pause and ask you, what nourishes that kind of smile? Where does it come from? Because it isn't bought in a store, and it can't be forced in the mirror. The radiance of a true smile comes from something much deeper. It comes from joy and gratitude. Joy is not just about excitement or celebration. It's not dependent on grand achievements or material gains. Joy, in the Buddhist sense, is a quiet, enduring happiness that arises when the heart is content. It comes from noticing the small wonders of life, a bird singing outside your window, the softness of morning light, or the warmth of a cup of tea in your hands. Gratitude is its closest companion. Gratitude means you don't overlook what you already have. The monk didn't have fine clothes or a comfortable bed, but he was grateful for the breath in his lungs, the ground beneath his feet, and the kindness of villagers who shared their food. That gratitude filled his heart, and naturally, it spilled onto his face as a smile. Modern science even backs this up. Studies in psychology show that people who regularly practice gratitude not only feel happier but also appear more approachable and even look healthier. Their faces literally change, wrinkles soften, eyes brighten, and their overall presence becomes more inviting. What ancient wisdom taught thousands of years ago, research is just now beginning to confirm. But here's where it becomes personal. You and I both carry worries, don't we? Bills to pay, people to care for, responsibilities that never seem to end. It's so easy to let stress harden our faces without even realizing it. Sometimes we look in the mirror and wonder why we appear so tired, even if we slept enough. Could it be that our faces are simply reflecting the heaviness inside? The good news is that we have a choice. We can train our hearts to see joy in the ordinary and to cultivate gratitude for what is already here. Every time we choose gratitude, every time we pause to notice something simple and beautiful, we water the seeds of that radiant smile. And just like the monk, our presence becomes a gift to others. I want you to imagine this for a moment. If today, instead of carrying the same old worries on your face, you let yourself smile from the heart, even once, how would that change the way people around you feel? Your coworker, your child, your partner, the stranger you pass at the store. What if your smile was the moment of light they desperately needed? And maybe the deeper question is this: what would it change inside of you? Because here's the secret. When you smile with joy and gratitude, you don't just lift others, you heal yourself. Your body relaxes. Your breath deepens. Your spirit feels lighter. It's as though every muscle remembers what it was created for, not to tense and fight, but to express the fullness of being alive. The Buddha once said that a peaceful mind shines more brightly than any jewel. And isn't that what we all want? Not just to look good on the outside, but to shine in a way that cannot be dimmed by age, by stress, or by circumstance. So as we begin this journey together, remember this: a radiant face is not made by cosmetics, wealth, or even perfect circumstances. It is born from within, nourished by joy, and sustained by gratitude. And that leads us to the heart of today's reflection. If a smile can light up a room, what would happen if we learned to live each day with that smile, grounded in joy and gratitude? How different would our world look? Let's carry that question with us. Because in the next part of this series, we'll go deeper into the wisdom of the Buddha, exploring how knowing enough leads to happiness, a truth that may change the way you look at your life completely. So stay with me, and together, let's uncover how joy and gratitude are not just emotions, but the secret to a radiant life. Wisdom 1. Knowing enough is happiness. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt truly content? Not the rush of excitement after buying something new, not the temporary relief after finishing a task, but that deep, quiet sense of I have enough. I don't need more in this moment. It's not a feeling we encounter often in our modern world. Everywhere we look, advertisements whisper, or sometimes shout, that we need something more, a bigger house, a newer car, the latest phone, a better body. And yet, have you noticed? Even when we get those things, the satisfaction fades quickly. Then the cycle starts all over again. There's an old story that illustrates a different way of living. In a small village, there was a poor farmer. His house was made of mud, his clothes were plain, and his meals were simple, just rice and vegetables. By most standards, he had very little. But he carried himself with a peace that people couldn't quite understand. He always had a smile for his neighbors, always greeted children kindly, and never seemed weighed down by envy. One day, a wealthy traveler passing through the village asked him, "How can you be so happy when you have so little?" The farmer smiled and replied, "Because what I have is enough. My stomach is full, my body is warm, and I can see the sunrise each morning. What more is needed to live well?" The Buddha captured this truth in a simple teaching. The one who knows contentment, even if lying on the ground, is filled with joy. In other words, happiness does not come from what we possess, but from the heart that knows when to say, "This is enough." Now, you might hear that and think, but if I just stop wanting more, how will I ever improve my life? Don't I need ambition, goals, drive? And that's a fair question. Knowing enough doesn't mean we stop growing, or stop pursuing meaningful work. It means we stop chasing illusions that tell us happiness lies only in the next thing. Think of it this way. Imagine drinking salty water when you're thirsty. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. That's what happens when we chase endless desires without contentment. But if you learn to drink fresh water, gratitude, appreciation, and simplicity, you quench your thirst in a way that truly nourishes you. I remember a time in my own life when this became real. I was working long hours, always telling myself, once I get this promotion, once I make this much money, then I'll relax, then I'll finally enjoy life. But every time I reached a milestone, the bar just moved higher. One evening, exhausted, I went outside and saw my child laughing while chasing fireflies in the yard. There was no phone in her hand, no shiny new toy, just pure joy in the simple glow of those tiny lights. And it struck me, this is happiness. This moment, right here. And I almost missed it because I was too busy chasing the next more. How often do we do that? How often do we overlook the miracle of what's already here? A warm bed at night, food on the table, the sound of a loved one's voice, the breath that carries us through each day. We think these things are small, but they are not. To someone else, they are everything. The practice of knowing enough, what Buddhists call contentment, is not about lowering your standards. It's about freeing yourself from the endless treadmill of never enough. Because no matter how much we acquire, if the mind is restless, happiness slips through our fingers. But when the mind rests in contentment, even the simplest life feels abundant. Modern psychology echoes this ancient wisdom. Research shows that people who practice gratitude regularly, writing down even 3 small things they are thankful for each day, report higher levels of happiness and lower levels of anxiety and depression. They don't necessarily have more than anyone else. They just see more clearly what they already have. And here's the beauty. Contentment shines through us. Just like the poor farmer in the story, people feel it when they're around us. They feel safe, at ease, even uplifted. Why? Because contentment has a quiet radiance. It's the kind of happiness that doesn't depend on flashy smiles or external success. It's the glow of someone who no longer needs to compete or compare. So let me turn the question back to you. What in your life, right now, is enough? What can you look at and say, this is already a gift. I don't need it to be bigger, better, or more. Could it be your morning cup of coffee? The shade of a tree on a hot day? The companionship of someone who truly understands you? If we practice recognizing those moments, our lives begin to change. Stress softens. The hunger for more doesn't control us. And the joy we find in the present starts to shape not just our minds, but even our faces, our voices, the way others feel in our presence. Happiness, then, is not out there waiting to be discovered in the next achievement or the next purchase. Happiness begins the moment we whisper to ourselves, I have enough. And when we live with that awareness, we realize something profound. Joy is not a future destination. Joy is already here, woven into the fabric of our ordinary days. So as you carry this teaching into your own life, I encourage you to pause sometime today and ask yourself, what is enough for me right now? And notice how the answer shifts the way your heart feels. Because the radiant face, the joyful heart, doesn't come from what's outside. It begins with knowing enough inside. And in the next part of this journey, we'll explore how gratitude, the deep appreciation of what we already have, not only nourishes happiness but also makes our very present shine. Stay with me, because this exploration is only just beginning. Wisdom 2. Gratitude nourishes the face. Let me ask you a question. When you picture someone truly beautiful, what comes to mind? Is it perfect skin, flawless features, or the symmetry we often see in magazines? Or is it something deeper, the warmth in their eyes, the kindness in their smile, the way being near them makes you feel seen and valued? There's a story about a woman that speaks to this truth. She lived a hard life. She worked long hours to take care of her family. Her hands were rough, her clothes simple, and she didn't have the luxuries many of us take for granted. But despite the hardships, she carried within her a heart full of gratitude. She often spoke about how thankful she was for her parents, who gave her life and taught her resilience. She expressed gratitude for every meal, even the most modest bowl of rice. She gave thanks for each new day she could breathe and work and love. And something remarkable happened. People loved being around her. Her face, though marked by years of labor, shone with a gentle radiance. Strangers felt at ease in her presence. Children trusted her instantly. Her smile wasn't just pleasant, it was magnetic, carrying the kind of beauty that no cosmetic could create. The Buddha once taught that gratitude is the root of all virtues. Think about that for a moment. Gratitude doesn't just make us polite, it shapes the very way we live and relate to others. A grateful heart is a humble heart, one that recognizes how much of life is a gift. And when we carry that recognition within us, it naturally reflects outward, in our words, our actions, and yes, even in our appearance. Modern science backs this up in fascinating ways. Studies show that gratitude literally changes the chemistry of the brain. It reduces stress hormones, boosts serotonin and dopamine, the very chemicals that make us feel happier and more connected. And as stress lessens, the face softens. Wrinkles of worry begin to ease. Eyes brighten. People who practice gratitude consistently are often described as looking healthier, more approachable, even more youthful. Isn't it remarkable that something as invisible as thankfulness can leave such visible traces on the body? I've seen this in my own life. There have been seasons when I was caught up in frustration, focused on what I lacked, on what wasn't going my way. During those times, my face carried the weight of that discontent. I didn't need a mirror to know it. I could feel it in the way people reacted to me, more guarded, less open. But when I intentionally shifted into gratitude, when I woke up and gave thanks for my breath, for the roof over my head, for the people who cared about me, the difference was palpable. Conversations flowed more easily. Friends told me I seemed lighter, more approachable. My presence changed, because my heart had changed. Gratitude nourishes the face because it nourishes the soul. And a nourished soul has no choice but to shine. Think about the opposite for a moment. When someone is constantly ungrateful, when they complain endlessly, when nothing is ever enough, how does their face appear? Often tight, sour, hardened. People might tolerate being around them, but few are drawn to them. The energy they carry pushes others away. Gratitude does the exact opposite. It opens the door, draws people in, and makes them want to stay. And here's the deeper wisdom. Gratitude is not about ignoring suffering or pretending everything is perfect. That woman in the story didn't deny her hardships. She simply chose to see the gifts that remained even in the midst of them. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it prevents pain from consuming us. It places a candle in the dark, so we can still see light. So I want to ask you, what are you grateful for today? Not in general, not in theory, but right now, in this very moment? Is it the breath that just entered your lungs? The device in your hands that connects you to people across the world? The presence of someone who cares about you? If we begin to notice these gifts, gratitude becomes less of a practice and more of a way of being. And when gratitude becomes our way of being, it doesn't just change our mood, it transforms our presence. Our face softens, our voice carries warmth, and our company becomes something others naturally seek. The Buddha's wisdom is simple yet profound. Gratitude is the source of radiance. A grateful person doesn't need to impress anyone. Their beauty is effortless, flowing from the inside out. So the next time you look in the mirror and wonder how to appear more radiant, more inviting, remember, the secret isn't in the cosmetics aisle, it's in the heart. The more you cultivate gratitude, the more your face will naturally glow. And that glow is timeless. It doesn't fade with age. It doesn't require wealth. It simply requires a heart that knows how to say, thank you. Gratitude nourishes the face, but more than that, it nourishes life itself. It makes people want to be around you, it makes your relationships deeper, and it makes your days feel richer. And most importantly, it makes you happier, regardless of circumstances. So let us carry this truth. Gratitude is not just a polite gesture. It is a powerful force that transforms the way we look, the way we feel, and the way we connect with others. And as we continue this journey together, we'll explore another wisdom that brings radiance, compassion. Because while gratitude nourishes the face, compassion makes the heart shine. Stay with me, and let's keep uncovering the timeless truths that bring joy, peace, and a radiant life. Wisdom 3. Compassion softens the face. Have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and, without saying a word, you just feel safe around them? It's not because of their clothes or their status. It's something deeper, something that radiates from the softness of their eyes, the calm of their presence. That's the quiet power of compassion. There's a story I once heard about a doctor in a small village. He didn't have a fancy clinic, and many of his patients were poor. Some couldn't even afford the simplest treatments. But he never turned anyone away. When a sick man came in with empty pockets, the doctor still gave him medicine. When a child was burning with fever, he sat by the bedside, gently reassuring the parents. What people remembered most wasn't just his skill, but the kindness in his gaze. He didn't look at his patients with judgment or pity, but with genuine care, as if to say, "Your suffering matters to me." That look alone healed something in them, even before the medicine took effect. And because of this, people describe him as having the gentlest, most peaceful face. The Buddha taught that compassion, karu, is not just about helping others. It transforms us, too. Compassion softens the heart, and when the heart softens, the face follows. A person who carries compassion within them naturally appears more approachable, more peaceful, more radiant. It's as if kindness seeps through the skin and settles into every feature. Think about it in your own life. Have you ever met someone who was outwardly attractive, but their coldness or arrogance made them seem less beautiful? And on the other hand, maybe you've met someone whose face was lined with age, whose body carried the weight of hardship, but their warmth, their genuine care, made them glow in a way no wrinkle cream ever could. That's the power of compassion. It creates beauty that no amount of money can buy. Modern psychology gives us another angle. Acts of compassion, whether giving to charity, listening to a friend in pain, or simply offering a kind word, activate the brain's reward centers. They release oxytocin, sometimes called the love hormone, which lowers stress and increases our sense of connection. Over time, this doesn't just make us feel better, it changes how we appear. Stress hardens the face, compassion softens it. I've seen this in moments of my own life. There were times when I was so focused on my own struggles that my expression carried tension. Tight jaw, furrowed brow, a kind of invisible armor. But when I turned outward, when I took time to really listen to someone else's story, or to ease another person's burden, something shifted. My own worries felt lighter, and I could literally feel my face relax. People would say, "You look different today." They didn't know it, but the difference wasn't in my skin, it was in my heart. Here's the paradox. Compassion may begin as a gift to others, but it always circles back as a gift to ourselves. When we let our hearts touch the pain of another person, we don't become weaker, we become softer, more human, more whole. And that wholeness is written all over our face. Let me ask you this. When was the last time someone's kindness touched you so deeply that you still remember their expression? Maybe it was a teacher who encouraged you when you felt like giving up. Maybe it was a stranger who helped you when your car broke down. Chances are, what you remember isn't just their words, but their presence, the compassion in their eyes, the warmth in their smile. That's what compassion does. It leaves an imprint not only on the hearts of others but on the way we ourselves are perceived. The Buddha often reminded his followers, cultivating compassion is the path to peace, not just peace in the world, but peace in our very being. Compassion disarms anger. It dissolves resentment. It replaces the tension in our body with gentleness. And when gentleness becomes our way of being, it becomes our appearance, too. So if you've ever wondered how to appear more radiant, not in the artificial way of chasing beauty trends, but in the timeless way that draws people in, the answer may be simpler than you think. Let your heart care. Let it care enough to see the suffering in others and respond, even in small ways. Because when compassion lives in your heart, it will always live in your face. So here's the takeaway. If you want to look more peaceful, more inviting, more beautiful in the truest sense, don't just reach for the mirror, reach for the suffering around you. A kind word, a gentle gesture, a patient ear. These are the true cosmetics of the soul. Compassion not only heals others, it heals us. It softens the face, calms the mind, and reminds the world that gentleness is still possible. So let us remember, a radiant face is not made by creams or surgeries, but by a heart that dares to feel. And if you want to shine in the deepest way, let your compassion show. And in the next part of this journey, we'll explore another wisdom that brings radiance, patience. Because while compassion softens the face, patience gives it endurance, the quiet strength to carry peace through life's storms. Stay with me, and let's keep uncovering the timeless truths that make us not just look radiant, but live radiant. Wisdom 4. Letting go of anger brings a peaceful face. Have you ever caught yourself looking in the mirror after an argument? The jaw clenched, the forehead tight, the eyes sharp. It's almost like the anger paints itself across the face, whether we want it to or not. There's a saying I once heard, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You're the one who gets burned first. And it's true. Anger doesn't just live in the mind. It settles in the body, in the face, in the way we carry ourselves. I remember meeting a man once, in his late 50s. He was wealthy, but everyone described him as hard. His face seemed permanently carved into a scowl, like the world had done him wrong and he was still carrying the grudge. Even when he smiled, it looked forced, almost painful, like his muscles had forgotten how to relax. Standing near him felt heavy, as if his anger filled the air. In contrast, I once met a woman much older, well into her 80s. Life had not been easy for her. She'd lost loved ones, worked hard her whole life, and faced betrayals too. But when she spoke, her voice was calm. When she looked at you, her eyes were gentle. Her face, though lined with wrinkles, carried a softness that made people feel safe. She had chosen forgiveness, again and again, and it showed. The Buddha taught that anger burns the one who carries it first. It's like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. The truth is, our resentment doesn't punish them. It punishes us. It robs us of sleep, steals our peace, and etches itself into our features. Over time, the habit of anger can make the face look older, harsher, more closed off. But when we let go, when we forgive, not because the other person deserves it, but because we deserve peace, the change is visible. The forehead smooths, the eyes soften, the smile becomes easier. Forgiveness frees not just the heart, but the face. Modern science even backs this up. Chronic anger and resentment raise stress hormones like cortisol, which accelerate aging, weaken the immune system, and damage the skin. Meanwhile, practices like forgiveness, compassion, and mindfulness lower those stress levels, slowing the aging process and literally making us look calmer, more youthful. So, in a very real way, forgiveness is the best beauty treatment you'll ever find. Think about it. Have you ever been around someone who radiates serenity? Someone who's been through storms but no longer carries the bitterness of them? Their face tells a different story, not of pain, but of peace. That's what letting go can do. Here's a question for you. What do you see in your own reflection when you're angry? And what do you see when you've truly forgiven someone? The difference is not subtle, it's night and day. I'll be honest, forgiveness isn't easy. It's not about pretending the hurt didn't happen. It's about choosing not to carry that hurt any longer. It's about saying, I release this not for them, but for me. I deserve a lighter heart. And every time we make that choice, our face reflects it. The heaviness lifts. The radiance returns. Let me give you a small practice. The next time anger rises, pause and take a deep breath. Ask yourself, is this worth carrying on my face for the next hour, the next day, the next year? Most of the time, the answer is no. Anger wants to stay, but peace wants to enter. And only one of them can truly live on your face. So here's the wisdom. Letting go of anger is not just an act of kindness toward others. It is a gift to ourselves. It saves our face from hardening, our heart from burning, and our life from being consumed by bitterness. Forgiveness doesn't just rescue relationships. It rescues our reflection. So if you want a face that's peaceful, approachable, radiant, don't just reach for the skincare routine. Reach for forgiveness. Let go of the coal before it burns you any further. Because at the end of the day, peace isn't something you can paint on. It's something that shines from within, when anger has finally lost its grip. And in the next part of our journey, we'll uncover another timeless truth, the wisdom of patience. If letting go of anger frees the face, patience steadies it, giving us the strength to endure life's storms with grace. Stay with me, because this path to a radiant life is only just unfolding. Wisdom 5. Forgiveness and letting go bring lightness and radiance. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to carry sunshine on their faces? Even when life isn't perfect, even when others talk behind their backs, they somehow glow with a kind of effortless ease. Let me share a story. There was a man who lived in a small neighborhood. He was often the subject of gossip. People would whisper about him, sometimes unfairly, sometimes cruelly. And yet, whenever he heard it, he didn't fight back, he didn't return the insult. He would simply smile and let it go. Over time, something surprising happened. The very same neighbors who once criticized him began to admire him. They would say, "He has such a good heart. Nothing seems to weigh him down." His gentle nature won their respect, not through arguments, but through his ability to let things pass. This is the heart of what the Buddha called HX, which we might translate as joyful letting go. It's not indifference. It's not weakness. It's the wisdom of knowing what's worth carrying and what's better released. Think about it. How many grudges have you carried in your life? A harsh word from a coworker, a family misunderstanding, an insult from years ago that still stings when you think about it. Each one feels small, but together, they weigh us down like heavy stones in a backpack. And the thing is, no one else feels that weight, only we do. Letting go isn't about saying the hurt didn't matter. It's about choosing not to carry it any longer. And when we make that choice, something shifts. Our hearts feel lighter. Our bodies relax. Even our faces change. The tension eases, the eyes brighten, the smile comes more naturally. Forgiveness has a way of shining through the skin itself. Modern psychology backs this up. Studies show that people who practice forgiveness and letting go have lower blood pressure, better sleep, and even more resilient immune systems. But beyond the science, we can all feel the truth of it. Anger tightens the body. Resentment hardens the face. But joyful release, the art of saying, "I let this go," softens everything. It gives us a beauty that no makeup can buy, no plastic surgery can create. Here's the question. When you hold on to resentment, who really suffers? The person who hurt you may not even remember. They go on with their lives. Meanwhile, you carry the weight, reliving the hurt again and again. Letting go is not a gift for them, it's a gift for you. I've seen this in my own life. There was a time when I held on to words spoken carelessly by someone close to me. I replayed them in my mind for weeks, each time feeling that sting of unfairness. But the truth was, I was the one reopening the wound. The moment I finally decided to let it go, not because they apologized, but because I wanted peace, the pain lifted. My face felt softer, my laughter easier. That's when I realized, forgiveness is not about erasing the past, it's about freeing the present. And here's the beauty of it. People are drawn to those who embody this lightness. Just like the man in the neighborhood, those who let go easily often become the most beloved. They radiate something timeless, a freshness that doesn't fade with age. It's what I call an ageless beauty, the kind that comes not from smooth skin, but from a free spirit. So maybe the next time you hear gossip about yourself, or feel the sting of criticism, try this. Instead of defending, instead of clinging, just breathe and smile. Ask yourself, is this worth carrying in my heart? Chances are, it's not. And each time you choose release, you add a little more brightness to your own face. The wisdom is simple. HX, joyful letting go, is the secret to a radiant life. The more we release, the lighter we become. And the lighter we become, the more beautiful we appear, not just to others, but to ourselves when we look in the mirror. So remember, a person who knows how to let go carries a beauty that never ages. And in our next step on this journey, we'll explore another timeless truth, the strength of patience. Because if letting go makes the face light, patience makes the heart unshakable. Stay with me. We are only halfway through this path of joy and wisdom, and each step brings us closer to the radiant life we all long for. Wisdom 6. Mindfulness brings a natural grace and freedom. Have you ever met someone who didn't have to say a word, yet the whole room felt different just because they were there? They didn't have flashy clothes, they didn't need to dominate the conversation, and still, their presence felt calm, fresh, almost magnetic. That is the quiet power of mindfulness. Let me tell you a story. There was a young monk in training who devoted himself to a very simple practice, breathing with awareness. Each morning, as he walked across the temple courtyard, he placed his feet on the ground slowly, one step with an in-breath, the next with an out-breath. No rush, no distraction, just presence. Over time, people who saw him began to notice something remarkable. It wasn't his robes or his words, but the way he moved. Every step felt steady. Every smile carried peace. Even silence around him was comforting. This is the essence of mindfulness. Not something abstract, not something mystical, but simply the art of being here, fully. When you are truly present, people feel it. When you smile with awareness, your smile carries a different weight. It touches hearts. Think about your own life. How often are you really here? Most of us are physically present, but mentally elsewhere, worrying about tomorrow's meeting, replaying yesterday's argument, scrolling endlessly on our phones while life quietly passes by. Our bodies are in the room, but our minds are miles away. And when we live like that, we leak energy. We lose our natural vitality. Mindfulness restores that energy. It gathers us back into the present moment. And when you're present, you radiate something people can feel, even if they don't have words for it. That calmness becomes your natural charm. The Buddha once said that mindfulness is the path to freedom. Why? Because when you are mindful, you're not dragged around by every emotion or thought. Anger arises, you see it, breathe with it, and let it go. Fear arises, you acknowledge it, and it passes like a cloud. Instead of being controlled by the storm, you become the sky that holds it all. That freedom is visible. It shows in your face, in your posture, in your way of being. Modern science agrees. Neuroscientists have found that mindfulness reduces stress, improves focus, and even changes the structure of the brain, strengthening the areas related to compassion and emotional balance. But beyond the data, you can feel the difference yourself. Try walking slowly with awareness, or eating a meal without your phone, savoring every bite. Notice how alive and centered you feel. That sense of calm, it shows on your face. I'll share something personal. There was a time when my days felt like a blur, emails, deadlines, conversations, all rushing together. I noticed in the mirror that my face looked tense, older than my years. But when I began practicing mindfulness, even in small ways, taking 3 conscious breaths before answering the phone, really listening instead of half listening, I felt a shift. My shoulders dropped, my eyes softened, my smile came more naturally. Friends began asking, "You look different, what's changed?" The truth was simple. Nothing outside had changed, only the way I was inhabiting the present. So here's a question for you. When was the last time you truly tasted your morning coffee, not just drank it on autopilot? When was the last time you walked without rushing, feeling the ground under your feet? These small acts of mindfulness don't just make the moment richer, they transform your presence. The teaching is clear. Mindfulness is not about withdrawing from the world. It's about being more fully alive within it. And that aliveness is radiant. You don't need to force charisma. You don't need to seek attention. Your simple presence, grounded and aware, becomes your most attractive quality. Imagine this. A person who is mindful enters a room. They don't have to talk loudly. They don't have to impress. And yet, people feel drawn to them. Why? Because in a world of noise and distraction, presence itself is rare, and rare things shine. So if you want to carry a natural grace, if you want your face and your whole being to radiate peace, the secret isn't outside. It's as close as your next breath. Be here. Truly here. That's mindfulness. And remember, a mindful person, even in silence, still shines. In our next reflection, we'll look at another wisdom, the strength of patience. Because mindfulness grounds us in the moment, but patience teaches us how to endure with grace. Together, they shape a beauty that time cannot fade. Wisdom 7. Impermanence teaches us to cherish the present. There's a truth most of us know, but rarely want to face. Nothing lasts forever. We hear it, we nod, but only when life shakes us do we really feel it in our bones. Let me share a story. A man once came terrifyingly close to losing his wife. She had a sudden health crisis. One moment, she was laughing at the dinner table. The next, she was rushed into the hospital. He sat in that sterile waiting room, surrounded by the hum of machines, realizing how fragile everything was. Hours later, she pulled through. She survived. But in that moment of almost losing her, something changed. He stopped taking her presence for granted. Suddenly, every breakfast together, every walk, every ordinary good night became precious. That's the lesson of impermanence. Life is constantly shifting. People age, relationships change, opportunities appear and disappear. When we fight this truth, we suffer. But when we accept it, something remarkable happens. We wake up. We begin to see the beauty of now, instead of chasing a tomorrow that isn't guaranteed. Think about it. How many times have we rushed through a meal with loved ones, distracted by our phones, only to look back later and wish we had been more present? How many times have we postponed a conversation, assuming there will always be more time? And yet, the one thing none of us can buy back is time itself. In Buddhist wisdom, impermanence, anicca, is not meant to depress us, but to liberate us. It whispers, don't wait. Love now. Live now. Appreciate now. The person in front of you will not always be there. You yourself are not guaranteed another sunrise. That sounds heavy, but it's also the key to joy. When you understand impermanence, every ordinary moment becomes extraordinary. Modern psychology agrees. Studies show that people who reflect on mortality actually report living with more gratitude, more kindness, and less procrastination. They don't waste as much time on grudges or trivial complaints. Why? Because they know time is finite, and that realization sharpens what really matters. I remember once visiting a friend who was caring for her aging mother. She told me, I used to get irritated when she repeated the same story over and over. But now, I remind myself, one day, I'll long to hear her voice again, even telling the same story. That shift of perspective, born from knowing everything is temporary, changed irritation into tenderness. That tenderness showed on her face, in her patience, in her gentle smile. And here's the paradox. Impermanence, which at first feels like loss, actually makes us more alive. When you know that today will never come again, you savor your morning coffee a little more deeply. You look into your child's eyes a little longer. You say, I love you, without waiting for the perfect moment. Impermanence doesn't take away beauty. It reveals it. Ask yourself this. If you knew today was the last time you'd see someone you love, how would you spend that time? What words would you say? What petty irritations would suddenly seem laughably small? That's the wisdom of impermanence. It strips away illusions and points us to what truly matters. And it shows on the face. A person who lives with gratitude for each fleeting moment carries a certain light. Their eyes are softer. Their smile is warmer. You can sense that they're not living in regret or waiting for someday. They are here, now, fully. And that presence is the most beautiful look anyone can wear. So, the teaching is simple. The most radiant face is not painted with expensive creams or frozen by chasing youth. It's illuminated by someone who is truly alive, cherishing the gift of the present moment. Remember, nothing is permanent, and that's not a curse, it's a blessing. Because it means every moment counts. And in our next reflection, we'll explore another wisdom, patience, the quiet strength that allows us to endure storms without losing our peace. If impermanence wakes us up to the present, patience helps us stay steady within it. Wisdom 8. The joy of giving. Have you ever noticed that the brightest smiles don't always come from people who receive, but from those who give? There's a simple story I love. A little boy, coming from a very poor family, was given a small piece of cake, something rare and precious to him. Instead of keeping it all to himself, he broke it in half and gave it to his friend who had none. His own portion became even smaller, but his smile, His smile was wider and more radiant than any gift money could buy. That moment wasn't about cake. It was about the joy that comes when the heart expands through generosity. We often think giving means losing something. If I share my money, won't I have less? If I give my time, don't I get more tired? But the truth, ancient wisdom tells us, is the opposite. Giving doesn't make us poor, it makes us rich. Not in the way a bank account measures wealth, but in the richness of spirit, in the abundance of connection, in the warmth that lingers long after the act is done. Think about the last time you gave freely. Maybe it was money, or maybe it was something far simpler, a listening ear, a kind word, a helping hand. How did you feel afterward? Chances are, you felt lighter, fuller, more alive. That glow is not an illusion. It's your heart reminding you that generosity is part of your true nature. Psychologists call this the helper's high. Neuroscience even shows that acts of giving activate the brain's reward system, flooding us with endorphins and oxytocin, the very chemicals that make us feel happy and connected. In other words, generosity is biologically wired to make us radiant. And it shows on our faces. You can see it. Someone who is generous without expectation of return carries a softness in their eyes, a natural openness in their expression. Their beauty doesn't come from perfect features. It comes from a spirit that overflows. Generosity sculpts the face into something welcoming, magnetic, unforgettable. Of course, giving isn't only about material things. Sometimes, the greatest gift is patience with someone who's struggling, or forgiveness when someone has hurt us, or simply presence in a world so full of distraction. You don't need wealth to be generous. You just need a willing heart. I once met an elderly woman who lived alone with very little. Yet every morning, she would prepare a small meal for the stray cats that wandered near her doorstep. She said, "I don't have much, but at least I can make their bellies warm." Watching her, you could see the gentle glow of someone whose life was measured not by possessions, but by compassion. That glow is more beautiful than any luxury could ever buy. Here's the paradox. The more you give, the more you feel you have. Generosity breaks the illusion of scarcity. It tells us, there is enough. You are enough. And when the heart rests in that truth, the face naturally shines with confidence and ease. Let me ask you, what if we measured beauty not by flawless skin or youthful features, but by how much joy we bring to others? What if the new standard of radiance was a life of generosity? Because here's the secret. The people we love being around, the ones who brighten the room the moment they enter, are usually not the ones who are endlessly taking. They're the ones who give laughter, give care, give light. So the teaching is this: giving with joy doesn't deplete you. It multiplies you. It doesn't dull your face. It brightens it. It doesn't make you smaller. It makes you expansive, boundless. The boy who shared his cake understood this, even if he didn't have the words. His small act revealed a truth as old as humanity. The heart that gives is the heart that glows. So, the next time you have the chance, give, not with calculation, not with expectation, but with joy. Your gift may fade, but your radiance will remain. And in our next reflection, we'll explore another wisdom, patience, the quiet strength that makes beauty steady and enduring, even in the midst of life's storms. Wisdom 9 and 10. Tranquil mind, illuminated wisdom. Beauty fades. Time leaves its marks, and no amount of skincare or makeup can stop the natural progression of age. Yet, there are people whose presence commands admiration, whose faces exude calm authority and inner light, regardless of how many years have passed. How is that possible? Let me share a story. In a quiet monastery, there lived an elderly monk. His face was lined, his hair white, his body frail. On any ordinary standard of beauty, he might appear ordinary. Yet, every visitor who met him felt something extraordinary. There was a depth, a radiance, a serene magnetism that drew people in. His eyes carried kindness, his smile reflected calm, and every word he spoke seemed measured with wisdom that touched the heart. People didn't just see him, they felt him. This is the teaching of the last two pieces of wisdom, tranquility of mind and illuminated wisdom. In Buddhism, samadhi, a mind grounded in calm and clarity, is the foundation. When the mind is still, it is like a mirror reflecting light without distortion. And that light is wisdom, the deep understanding of life, impermanence, compassion, and connection. Notice how we often chase beauty in the wrong places. Flawless skin, perfect hair, youth frozen in time. Yet, these are temporary. What truly shapes a person's aura, what makes them unforgettable, is something invisible but palpable, the serenity and clarity of their mind. When a person cultivates inner peace, it naturally reflects outward. Their posture relaxes, their expression softens, their interactions become thoughtful rather than reactive. That calm presence radiates more than any makeup or fashion ever could. Think about someone you admire, not for their looks, but for the way they carry themselves, for the way their presence feels like a safe harbor. Perhaps it's a mentor, a parent, a friend, or even a teacher you once had. That presence is not the product of youth. It is the product of a mind that has been trained to be steady, compassionate, and aware. That is true beauty. Let's consider this. Wisdom and calm are contagious. When you are around someone truly centered, you feel a subtle shift in yourself. You breathe easier. Your thoughts settle. Your heart opens. The mind's tranquility becomes a kind of magnetism, an unseen radiance. And unlike superficial beauty, this radiance doesn't fade with age. It deepens, like a river carving a graceful canyon over years. Modern neuroscience supports this too. Studies on mindfulness and meditation show that long-term practice can literally reshape the brain, enhancing areas linked to emotional regulation, empathy, and attention. What this means is that cultivating inner peace doesn't just feel good, it physically influences the way we carry ourselves, the way our faces naturally express calm and compassion. I want to share a personal reflection. I once visited a monastery and observed an elderly monk during a tea ceremony. He moved slowly, deliberately, with full attention. He poured the tea with care, spoke with clarity, and laughed gently, as though each moment was sacred. Watching him, I realized that his radiance was not in the absence of age, but in the fullness of presence. His years had not diminished him. They had polished the depth of his being. Ask yourself this. If beauty is truly the reflection of the mind, then how are you cultivating yours? Are your moments filled with agitation, comparison, and worry? Or do you invest in practices that calm your mind, expand your understanding, and open your heart? Every breath you take, every moment of reflection, every act of compassion, adds to the light that emanates from within. The final teaching is clear. Lasting beauty is not on the surface. It is in the tranquility of the mind and the illumination of wisdom. Age may change the shape of the face, but a calm mind and a luminous heart make the whole being glow. People will remember the serenity and clarity you carried long after your youth has passed. That's the beauty that endures. So as we conclude this series, remember, the radiant face we all seek is not a matter of mirrors or makeup. It's cultivated through gratitude, presence, compassion, patience, generosity, mindfulness, understanding impermanence, and finally, through a tranquil mind coupled with enlightened wisdom. When these come together, your spirit shines, through every wrinkle, every line, and every grey hair. The most radiant face is one at peace with itself, illuminated by insight, and shaped by a life lived consciously and with love. This is not just a philosophy, it's a way of living that anyone can practice, starting today. Every small step toward inner calm and understanding reflects outward in ways the world can't ignore. So, ask yourself, how can I let my mind settle? How can I let my heart shine? How can I nurture wisdom that radiates through my every glance, every smile, every action? That is the path to enduring beauty, the kind that transcends time, touches others, and leaves a lasting impression of grace. And with that, our journey through the 10 Buddhist wisdoms of joy, gratitude, and radiance comes to a close. May you carry these reflections into your life, letting your inner light illuminate the world around you, one moment, one smile, one act at a time.